Good afternoon and welcome to the Transportation Federal Credit Union 2024 Lunch and Learn series. Today's presentation, The Psychology of Spending, is brought to you in partnership with GreenPath, a nationwide financial counseling and education organization that focuses on improving the financial health of individuals. As the premier credit union of the transportation community, we have joined with GreenPath to expand our mission of providing quality financial education to our community and lending insight into credit management, home ownership, and money management. Transportation Federal Credit Union is a full-service financial institution serving employees and contractors of the Department of Transportation, the Federal Aviation Administration, and over 100+ employer groups in the area. We currently serve over 15,000 members in the area and welcome you to come and experience the benefits of membership as well. Now, later on in this presentation, we will display our contact information and answer any specific questions you may have concerning your financial needs. Please know that today's webinar is live and all phone lines have been muted. However, if you have a question, please feel free to type it in the question and answer field on the right side of your screen there in the menu bar. All questions are private and will be addressed at the end of our presentation. We will be offering a free 45-minute financial coaching session with a completion of 3 webinars. More information will be given at the end of the presentation. And lastly, a recording of today's session will be available by the end of the day on our website. Details will also be sent to your email following the presentation. And with this, we're going to turn our presentation over to Jessie Garrison from GreenPath. Jessie, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for being here. All right, thank you.
All right, so today's agenda, we will be covering the values, advertising, social factors, and self-concept of the psychology of spending. We're going to talk a little bit about how and the whys, why we buy or why we save. So as we start looking at psychology of spending, we're going to first turn our attention to our spending habits. How did we become spenders or savers, or not become spenders or savers? There are various factors that have contributed to our current relationship with money. We want to ask, what do you think some of the influences are to your spending? If you have any thoughts, you can add those to the chat. What do you think influences our spending? We'll share some of the things that we're going to look at today as you think about what you think influences your spending as you put those in chat. We believe that some of them are going to be the values, self-concept, social factors, and advertising. How these factors interact and shape our spending habits is what we'll continue to discuss today. Now, we also want to touch base and understand why we spend. We must understand our values and attitudes towards money. What is the difference between values and attitudes? The two words are often used interchangeably, but are actually rather distinct ideas. Now, values are going to be strongly held beliefs that reflect our upbringing. Without examination and conscious effort, it is very difficult to alter a personal value. Attitudes are more easily changed. They usually reflect our current life situation, our likes and our dislikes. And as such, they are not as deeply embedded as our values. The two work together and can influence each other. However, they are not the same thing. A simple example of the difference, we're going to meet Robert. He values hard work and commitment. However, on Monday morning at 6 a.m., his attitude towards work may be less than positive creating him a negative emotional reaction when the alarm goes off. His value hasn't changed, just his immediate attitude towards going to work at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. And then maybe that attitude leads to the behavior of hitting the snooze button just one too many times. I think we've all had this experience. So what does that have to do with spending? It matters because our values usually influence our attitudes, and our attitudes create an emotional reaction. And that emotional reaction can lead to certain behaviors. And for some of us, that behavior detours us from achieving our financial goals. So how do we stop the counterproductive behaviors? We have to go back to the beginning and understand where our values about money and spending come from. And the only way to alter your attitude towards money and thus your behavior is to understand the values that lead to those attitudes. Our money values are influenced by several different factors. What affects our money values? We're going to start with family. Family is which a person is raised usually has the greatest influence on an individual's values about money. Research finds that we are a lot more like our parents than we think, at least as far as our spending habits are concerned. Our tendency to save or spend, the way we manage money, even the brands we choose to spend our money on are all highly influenced by what our parents did when we were growing up. And then there's media. American movies and television shows are filled with the images of what we quote unquote the good life. The lifestyle depicted is often far from reality that most of us actually experience in real life. And yet, these projected images deeply influence the way that we see our personal level of success and what we value. Finally, we're going to take a look at culture, and individuals' values are also influenced by cultural values. America is a culture of spending. Since the explosion of easily accessible credit cards or credit that began in the 1980s, our cultural tendency has been a buy now, figure it out, pay later mentality. We have value in material goods, and culturally speaking, tend to judge others not on their character, however, rather on what they potentially own. So next, let's dig in just a little bit for an exercise. And if you can find a piece of paper, potentially bigger than a sticky note, but maybe a few sticky notes, something to jot down some ideas as we go along. In this exercise, we will follow the next 6 steps to learn about our own personal values. Now, this is something that you're going to use for yourself. No one else has to see it or know about it. So be honest. There's no right or wrong answer. This is truly what you think, what you feel, what you believe for yourself. Step 1, identify a time in your life when you felt the happiest. So write down a time in your life when you felt the happiest. What were you doing? Were there others with you? If so, whom? And what particular made this a happy time? So identify a time in your life when you felt the happiest. All right, then step 2, identify a time in your life when you made a difficult decision. However, you knew with all certainty that it was the right decision. Identify a time in your life when you made a difficult decision. However, you knew with all certainty that it was the right decision. What made that decision difficult to make? Did you feel relief once the decision was made? How did you know it was the right decision? Next question. Number 3, identify a time in your life when you felt the most successful. Identify a time in your life when you felt the most successful. What about the achievement made it a success? Did other people know about the success, or was it a personal achievement? What particularly made you feel successful? All right, question number 4. Identify a time in your life when you felt the most satisfied and peaceful. Identify a time in your life when you felt the most satisfied and peaceful. What was happening at that time? Again, were there others involved? If so, whom? What in particular made this time peaceful and satisfying? So step number 5, using your experiences of happiness, certainty, success, and satisfaction, try to describe in just a few words why each experience was truly important and memorable. So next step, using the experiences of happiness, certainty, success, and satisfaction, try to describe in just a few words why each experience was truly important and memorable. And we'll give you just a minute here to reflect. So we think that this exercise will often lead us to our few core values and helps to give you a few words used to describe the values that you can refer to. Most people have between 3 and 7 core values. If you see that you have more than 7, maybe see if some of those could group together. If so, choose the one that best represents the group of those values. For instance, if you felt most successful after organizing a $1 million fundraising drive for your favorite charity, you may use the words philanthropy, community, and generosity to describe why that event was meaningful to you. These 3 words could then be condensed even further to say that service to others was the true value of that event. And then step number 6, once you have defined your core values, think about the ways in which you choose to spend money. Are you spending choices in line with your core values? If not, what changes might you consider to make to better align your spending with your values? So after you have defined your core values, think about the ways in which you spend or save money and decide if your spending choices are in line with those core values. If they're not in line, consider what changes you might make to better align your spending values. So next, let's take a quick look at this question from Gandhi. He says, your beliefs becomes your thoughts. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. Your habits become your values become your destiny. So again, if your spending habits do not reflect your values, maybe it's time to make a change. Again, the question is, are your current spending decisions aligned with your defined values? If not, think about how you might consider making those changes. And if your values might potentially want to change, that's okay too. Again, this is an exercise in just being honest with yourself and deciding where you want to move forward. Just making a conscious decision to put your money into things that represent your core values rather than allowing your spending habits to determine your values. So share your values with your family and your financial partners. Your spending decisions will be influenced by every member of the family, and it is important that everyone understands one another's values and that you have identified some shared values. Next, we'll turn our attention to how other influences are influencing our spending behaviors. So the effect on advertising on spending. Experts estimate that the average person is exposed to anywhere between 250 and 10,000 advertisements daily. This takes into account not only the advertisements that we see when watching TV or listening to the radio, also those that pop up while surfing the internet and while using our favorite apps on our phones. Glaring advertisements like billboards lining the highway, maybe more subtle advertisements such as product placements in movies and TV shows. Advertisers are constantly barraging us with images of happy, healthy, smiling people using their particular product. This creates a psychological connection in our brains, linking personal fulfillment with their product. Advertisers will pay millions of dollars to have their product featured in a scene. You can see an example in the Heineken beer commercial. They paid $45 million to be centered in a movie scene. Now, in contrast, Apple products, they don't pay for product placement. Instead, they send multiple, quote, gifts to the production company with the hopes that they may use the product in a scene. And it seems to work because Apple was the most promoted product in 2014. And now that you're aware of this fact, you might start to notice it in more shows that you watch. These connections are so ingrained in our psyche and our culture, we base sometimes an individual's worth, sometimes including our own, on the stuff that we have. So we want to ask ourselves, what are some social circumstances that might affect our spending? Again, please use the chat feature to share some ideas. What are some social circumstances that might affect our spending? We think there's a few answers here, and they could vary, of course, depending on your life and your situation and what social factors you're involved in. But your neighbors, your family, your friends, society in general, maybe even the type of job or where you work. Are you working from home? Are you working in the office? Sometimes we're more likely to purchase items from people that we know. For example, if you are more likely to purchase something at a friend's party than someone you don't know. And this is why companies like Tupperware, Pampered Chef, Avon, Mary Kay, and many others rely on in-home parties to sell their products. Your social class also may have an influence on our spending attitudes as well. Have you ever experienced a time when you received a significant increase in income, only to find out that it also increased your spending? This may be because of a change in social class. Social class is a group of people who have the same social, economic, or educational status in society. When you have more funds available, you may be giving yourself permission to buy more or buy more expensive items. If you are opposed to spending more money with your next raise, consider instead raising your contribution to your retirement for the amount of money that you gained. Or set up a direct deposit to a savings account for the same amount of the raise in your income. That way, you know that you still got the raise. However, your net income or your purchasing power is the same as it was before. And maybe that might help limit an increase in spending with the increase in the raise. To some degree, consumers in the same social class exhibit similar purchasing behavior. The higher our socioeconomic status, often, the more expensive the cars, the houses, the clothes, the food that we buy. This is also perceived in our advertising that we mentioned, right? Our peer group also has strong influence on our spending habits. We may think that peer pressure of this kind only exists for teenagers. However, it is true for adults as well. Have you ever found yourself going out to lunch at work, even though you brought your lunch? And you're going out to lunch because everyone else was going. Or spending more than you intended when shopping with a friend. So just by knowing, having this power of knowledge and knowing that the peer pressure exists here in our adult lives, we can still choose to spend and we can choose not to. Sometimes it helps imagining yourself in the situation ahead of time. For example, if you know you get asked out to lunch frequently at work, however, you're committed to your values of saving money by preparing lunch and bringing it in from home, consider what you might say when you're asked to go out to lunch. Maybe your reply is, "Oh, not today. I've made my lunch. Thanks for asking." Or, "I just ate lunch, but I'd love to come for the company to hang out." We hope in bringing this to your awareness that you may be able to curb that peer pressure to spend money. And let's not forget about atmosphere. Most of us have had the experience of being in a department store or shopping mall and finding it extremely difficult to find the exit. This is not by accident. The longer you are in the store, the greater the likelihood that you will make the purchase. Retailers control the lighting, layout, music, temperature, and sometimes even the smell to entice you to buy and buy more. For most people, shopping is not simply an act of purchasing what you need and then going home. Shopping is a form of entertainment and social involvement, and the shopping mall has an experience to it. For researchers, malls are vast, complex, and complete. Studies have shown that more actual purchases occur in the third hour of shopping. So malls are designed to keep a shopper there for at least that long, with winding architecture, appealing music, and even adding pleasing aromas to make it difficult to leave. Each of us carries a certain set of beliefs about ourselves. This set of beliefs is known as our self-concept. Generally speaking, we act in ways that are consistent with our self-concept. For example, if a component of one's self-concept includes, "I am a good cook," that person is more likely to offer to help in preparing food for a party than someone who has a self-concept of being a bad cook. So here's the self-concept, "I am." Two of the most powerful words that you put after them shapes your reality. Your self-image answers the question, "Who am I?" So self-concepts may include ideas such as, I am a hard worker, I am good at math, I am tall. Now just think for a minute about your self-concept in regards to spending money. I am a spender, I am a saver. What other things are you? Keep in mind that when our behavior doesn't match our self-image, it leads to mental stress. Acting in ways that are contrary to our self-image can lead to something called cognitive dissonance. In psychology, cognitive dissonance is the mental stress caused when our brains are confronted with contradictory beliefs or values. For example, a person whose self-image includes, I am good at riddles, will experience cognitive dissonance if they are confronted with a riddle that they cannot solve. While someone without that concept of the self-concept of I am good at riddles, if they can't solve one, they might not lightly care. It might not bother them. If or when your beliefs don't match your behavior, this may cause you stress. And let's not forget about the idea of the self-fulfilling prophecy. A self-fulfilling prophecy is a prediction that directly or indirectly causes itself to become true. So what does that have to do with money? Because we subconsciously go to great lengths to avoid cognitive dissonance, we will act in ways consistent with our self-concept around money. If you think of yourself as a saver, you will probably feel some psychological stress when you have to take money out of savings for a large purchase. If you think of yourself as a spender, you may be more likely to make impulsive purchases. Examining and recognizing your self-concept around money can help you avoid behavior that is counterproductive to reaching your financial goals. A spender who makes a conscious effort to change their self-concept to that of a saver will find it much easier to save for their goals. Changing how you think about yourself may actually change your behavior. When faced with a decision of whether to buy or not to buy, if you think of yourself, I am the type of person who saves money, you might actually find it easier not to buy. If you have determined changing and becoming more of a saver than a spender, that's your goal, then it might be time to talk about a few strategies to save. What does, ask yourself, what does pay yourself first mean? We believe that paying yourself first means to designate a certain amount of money to go into savings before any other bills are paid. For example, if you decided that you will save 10% of your income, then you would create your budget based on 90% of your take-home pay. People report the most success that they have when that 10% is directly deposited into a savings account in the hopes that if you don't see it, you won't miss it. Out of sight, out of mind. So it can maybe stay in that savings account. Another strategy is to learn to love saving. You may find that watching your money grow and saving for future purchases will be more satisfying than spending impulsively. Remember, if we talked about this changing your self-concept from one of I love spending to I love saving might actually help you change your behavior. Transportation Federal Credit Union offers various savings accounts that you can utilize to save for anything and everything. Align your spending with your values as well. If you find that you are spending more money than you want on items like entertainment, eating out, clothes, or other extras, other wants, review those core values that we worked through earlier. If entertainment was not one of the top values, why would you spend a lot of money on it? Find the things that truly matter to you and demonstrate its importance with your spending decisions. And then finally, please be aware that we are highly influenced by advertising. So think before you buy. Think about a few questions that you can ask yourself before each and every purchase. Will I use this? Do I need this? Where will I put it? What if I wait before I buy this? These are all important questions to ask yourself before you buy to help assure that you are being intentional with your purchases. Now, this is important for the grocery shopping as well, right? Do I need the gallon of milk? Yes, because the milk is expired. Okay, if you've answered that question, yes, you can move on. Will I use this? Yes, the gallon of milk will be drank and it's not going to go bad. Where am I going to put it? I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. What if I wait? Well, if I don't have milk, then we can't have the cereal for breakfast, right? So you're going to be able to quickly move through these questions for some purchases. However, the new car, will I use this? Yes, because my car broke down. Do I need this? Yes, because there's not public transportation. Where will I put it? In the garage. What if I wait? I might not be able to get to work tomorrow. Do I need a new car? No, mine is just fine. I just want a new car. I want the newest, greatest new one that came out. So hopefully that makes sense on some of these ideas and how you may be honest with yourself when making purchases and asking yourself these questions. My absolute favorite question to ask myself is, do I need this or do I want this? Yes, I need new shoes because I've worn them out, there's holes in them, or do I just want new shoes? Are there any other strategies that you'd like to share in chat that have helped you prevent those impulse purchases? I know there's a few here that we could share. Again, asking yourself, will I really use this product? Maybe ask yourself if there's any underlying motives for making this purchase. Are you having a stressful day? Did you have an emotional day? Are you emotionally buying? You could ask yourself, do you own anything else that provides the same, does it have the same function? I see another one that came into chat, leave credit cards at home. Yes, I love this. Only carry one credit card just in case of an emergency for a small purchase in case you need it. Another one along that same lines, leaving the credit cards at home. You can take the credit cards off of the account. Don't auto save them to your phone or to your online purchases. And there's another one in chat. Look for deals and coupons before you buy something. Use cash back and debit or credit card rewards. Absolutely, that's a great way. So next, understanding your values, your attitudes, and emotional reactions could help you change your own behaviors. Defining your values helps you make money choices that are in line with those values. Being aware of the things that impact your attitudes, the social status, peer pressure, advertising, this can help you to change your behavior. And remember, building your savings account usually will help to relieve stress. You have that savings in there, you don't have to rely on credit cards. Combining this insight with why you buy will hopefully help you make the choices that will allow you to meet your financial goals. As a member of the Transportation Federal Credit Union, you also have free and confidential access to GreenPath Financial Wellness. GreenPath is the largest and most respected credit counseling agency in the nation. We work to empower you to eliminate financial stress, get out of debt, help you to increase your savings, or talk about the goals to increase your savings, and help you just achieve your overall financial goals. If you want advice, you can call to speak with a certified financial wellness coach here at GreenPath, or you can learn more on our website by giving us a call at 877-337-3399.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jesse, for that wonderful information. You've given us a lot of insight on, our spending habits and how we buy. And I think now we're going to take a pause when you purchase that next or go to purchase that next item. Thank you so much. We're going to turn the presentation over to the Q&A session right now. And let me see what questions that we have currently right now in the queue. One of the questions had to deal with methods of saving. Jesse, I know that you spoke briefly about savings accounts and so forth. I think what are some suggestions on automatically saving?
My favorite recommendation to get started with savings, if that's your goal and you don't currently save, is to start with an automatic saving. And what I mean by automatic savings is either working with your employer to have them do a direct deposit right into a savings account. So let's say, for example, I get paid $500 every Friday. And after taxes, I get the $500. So after all the deductions, I'm getting $500 direct deposit into my checking account. After you review your values, your attitudes, your beliefs, your goals, your budget, you decide that you can afford to put $10 of that $500 into a savings account. And so you can ask your employer to put $10 direct deposit into savings, and then the $490 goes into your checking account to pay for the bills. If your employer can't split the direct deposit, then maybe you consider talking to the representative at the Transportation Federal Credit Union and ask if you could set up like an automatic transfer where they do it for you, or if it's available online. Where I do my banking, I have it set up in both options, both instances, actually. I have a bank where I have my primary checking account because that's where I used to work. And so I've kept it there. But I also have my credit union. And when I started this process 20 some years ago, we didn't have all of the online money transfer tools that we have today. And so I started having my employer do the direct deposit to my credit union, but the credit union was physically 1 hour drive away from where I currently lived. So that was my barrier I put up for myself to have it physically like unavailable for me to get to that money in case it was an emergency. And so I truly started with $5 per paycheck. And I did $5 per paycheck until I could do $10. And then I did 15, and then I did 20, and so on and so forth. And so now I think there's $300 a month going to that savings account, still from the checking account, from my direct deposit, going to that credit union that's now 1 hour away. Now, today, we have a lot of electronic funds transfers, and I can easily get to that money much more easily. However, I have built that discipline into my own mental behaviors and values that is something that I save, that I don't take out unless it is truly an emergency. So again, no matter the amount, if it's $5 per paycheck, $5 per week, just get started. Make yourself a goal. I'm going to save $5 per paycheck. Then when you're ready, make the goal $10, then 15, and so on. Maybe make your goal, I want to save $100. How fast can I get there? Then when you get to the $100, stretch it again, make it 200, 300, and just continue to save.
Great advice, Jesse. Really great advice. All right, we do have another question. What do you recommend in managing my budget? I find budgeting to be the strongest tool in the spending tool belt. So I guess recommendations on budgeting.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many tools out there. It's so hard to recommend just one. I absolutely would recommend that you check out a few of the different tools that we have on the GreenPath website. They're free, they're interactive, and you can use them. Absolutely check out what Transportation Federal Credit Union has for you. No matter what you go and find, the things that are going to be most important is to make sure it's free. You don't want to pay for a tool to use. And then make sure it makes sense to you. Okay, you might have to try a few different things. You might have to try a few different resources. For example, good old pen and paper. If you want to use Excel, if you want to use an app on your phone, you want to use a budgeting tool that's kind of ready, set, all filled in for you. You have to make it so it's easy for you and it's something that you can go back to on a regular basis, because creating a budget today is not the same budget that is potentially even 6 months from now. It might change. Life happens quickly. And so you have to have whatever budgeting tool that you're going to use, you have to be able to look at it on a regular basis, consistently review and adjust, and then make sure that it is something that you can use. So that's what I like to recommend. You might have to do a little research. You might have to try with pen and paper and realize that doesn't work for you. You might have to then try Excel and realize, okay, that doesn't work. And then you try an app and you fall in love.
Awesome, awesome. One more, I guess this is just a statement. Another lesson this attendees learned a long time ago is to set aside payments or monthly allotments so that the quarterly bills are due and there's money in there on time. I guess talking about, I guess back to your first point, Jesse, about putting money aside, you know, in increments so that you're able to pay your bills and so forth. So
absolutely. That's a great way. It's a great process to kind of, we call it paycheck planning. So maybe that's what the PP in the chat, it was referring to paycheck planning. So knowing that, you know, if rent or the mortgage is $500 a month, and I know that's probably not a realistic amount in this day and time, but it's $500 a month and you get paid weekly, that you know that you have to put $125 from every paycheck to have that $500 by the end of the month or the first of the month. So paycheck planning, it's a way to get started with your budgeting, understanding how much per paycheck you need for each item you have to pay for.
okay, all right. Well, those are all the questions that we have right now. We'd just like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. And to learn more about Transportation Federal Credit Union, or if you'd like to speak to a member service representative, you could contact us with the information on your screen. Again, we'd like to thank Jesse, our presenter, and GreenPath for their support. If you'd like to schedule your 45-minute financial counseling session, you can contact them again at 877-337-3399. Jesse, thank you again for all of the information that you shared with our audience today. And we'd like to thank everybody for attending. You will get an email after this presentation with a link to the recording. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you.